May I ask one question? Would the good sponsor yield for one question, please?
Gentleman from 19, yield to question. Gentleman
yes,
from 19, yield for question.
21?
I'm sorry, 21. I'm sorry.
Yes.
From Representative 25 said.
Yes.
This lady from
yields.
19 would like to ask you a question, good gentleman.
Thank you, good gentleman. Maybe a follow-up to the question before. So if I am raped and choose to have an abortion and my rapist has 10 siblings, is there anything to preclude all of them and their spouses from bringing a lawsuit for $20,000 each?
Gentleman from 21.
I'm not sure their spouses are included in that list, but no.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. To debate the bill.
Lady has the floor.
Thank you. I think their spouses would be included because they would be, aunts and uncles are included. The vigilante aspect of this bill is absurd, as I think this has been pointed out. This bill is not clever, it's absurd, its impacts are cruel, and it is blatantly unconstitutional, as you can see in the AG opinion that's been disseminated. We are at a crisis point for reproductive rights in this country, and this legislation is part of the plan to completely take away nearly all access to abortion care, really for any reason in Idaho. No one's most intimate medical decisions should be controlled by us. I don't think the 105 Idaho legislators need to be in the exam room between a pregnant person and the doctor, and that's exactly what this bill does. First, this bill mandates transvaginal ultrasounds when they are not medically necessary. That is the only way you can detect what's being called a fetal heartbeat. It's simply cardiac activity. We are forcing transvaginal ultrasounds and really eroding the trust between a provider and a patient, making them do something that's not medically necessary simply because we wanted to put this in statute. Second, this blatant attack on these healthcare rights is not popular. As recently as 2019, a poll found that 65% of voters believe it is important that women have access to all reproductive healthcare options. This bill is so extreme and so out of line with what mainstream Idahoans want. If this bill passes, people who are unable to leave the state would be forced to carry pregnancies against their will, and while those who do have resources will be able to get across the state border and get this care. And is that right? Is that fair that if you are low-income Idahoan, you can't get the same health care that someone who's higher income can? This is going to impact low-income people. It's going to impact people of color who are less likely to have wealth or wealthy social networks who could lend them cash so that they can travel and get this care. This kind of sue thy family provision in this bill makes your aunts and uncles, parents, into potential enemies, spying on you to see what you're doing. If I have an abortion, it is no business of my brother, my brother-in-law, his wife, or anyone else in my extended family. This bill purports to have exemptions for rape and incest, but those exemptions are not meaningful. If a survivor of rape or incest seeks abortion care, they will have to produce a police report. We know there are all kinds of problems with that. First, it can take a lot of time before law enforcement can actually produce a report like that. We know rape and incest especially is severely underreported, and to put that kind of requirement on people just makes no sense. It's cruel, and it adds an additional trauma to survivors of that kind of sexual violence. And notably, if you are a minor in this bill, you're probably very unlikely to have made a report to the police. Only a report made by your parent or guardian suffices as a police report that you can take to the doctor so that you can have your abortion. Just when you think about, what if in cases of incest, if it's the father who committed this rape of a child and impregnated her, he's probably not going to be taking her down to the police department to file that report. This just shuts off any sort of opportunity for children in that heartbreaking situation to end an unwanted pregnancy. This tool gives abusers a way to control their intimate partners. They can have the threat of turning, their partner in for seeking an abortion, and really limits what someone in an abusive situation can do. You might be able to get to an appointment discreetly if you're in an abusive situation when it's just going across town. If you have to drive 250 miles to get to a border, that's much harder to hide from an abusive partner. This is dangerous for people. This bill doesn't include any privacy protections. So when the brother of my rapist wants to sue me, I can then be called to court as a witness and have all of this personal information, my personal business, out there for the world to know. This legislation is bad for public health. Experts predict that a total abortion ban would lead to a 21% increase in the number of pregnancy-related deaths, and that's even higher for Black women. The impact of not getting wanted abortion care can be devastating for so many reasons, and they all depend on the circumstances. People who are forced to carry an unwanted pregnancy to term are 4 times likelier to suffer poverty, as well as anxiety and loss of self-esteem after being denied wanted abortion care. This is especially concerning this is also concerning when parents get in the news that their fetus is unlikely to survive to full termination or outside the womb. There is nothing in this legislation that protects access to abortion care in those heartbreaking cases, thus forcing a pregnant person to bring a non-viable pregnancy to term, prolonging just the loss and the grieving and the trauma. This bill will clearly have a chilling effect on doctors and health centers that provide a variety of reproductive health care and puts at risk all kinds of things that those centers and community health centers provide. The reason someone seeks abortion are deeply personal. As I said, these need to remain between a patient and a doctor. A victim of rape or incest should never be forced to bear a child, and this legislation acknowledges that. The problem is that the exception is so cumbersome that it renders itself useless, but we should ask ourselves, if an abortion is acceptable in those circumstances, why can't we trust patients to make those decisions in other cases for their deeply personal reasons? 6 in 10 women who have abortions are already mothers, and half of them have 2 or more children. And one of the top reasons that women seek abortion care is so that they can be better parents to the children they already have. Who are we to get in the way of that? Who are we to get in the way no matter what the reason? I have dear, dear friends I love, respect, and admire who had abortions and experienced great relief at not being forced into carrying a pregnancy to term. And about 1 in 4 American women over the course of their lives will get an abortion. So if you think you don't know someone who had an abortion, that's probably not true. This is my 3rd legislative session, so therefore it's my 3rd time hearing an abortion bill. This is a kind of an annual tradition. And I've told the story of why this is so personal to me twice now. I'll touch on it just lightly again. It's about my great-grandmother who was widowed with 3 kids and got remarried to a man who turned out to be abusive. And when she became pregnant with his child, she tried to induce an abortion, and she died. This was the kind of the lore, the family legend that got passed down. long after she died. My dad didn't know until he was an adult. And I don't think we even found out until my grandmother, who was orphaned, died. But I started doing some research on ancestry websites this summer, and I dug up her death certificate, which is before you. You can see the cause of death. It's peritonitis. That means an infection of the abdomen. You know, a lot has changed in the 100 years that have passed since my great-grandmother died because she couldn't get access to a safe abortion. But people still find themselves in very similar, desperate situations where there's intimate partner violence, financial situations, and all kinds of reasons on which we should not place judgment that people seek abortion care. Who are we to judge them, and why would we make that impossible? Please vote no.